Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Manifest with KK. I'm your host, KK, and I'm here to talk to you about how I manifested before YouTube had all these manifestation channels. And I feel like this channel is something really special because I'm not finding anything out there of people talking about how they just naturally have always been a manifester. They always talk about techniques or, try this method or try this new trend. But I want to talk about all the success stories that I've experienced throughout my life so that you can also realize how much power you hold within yourself. So, this channel is really about success stories, inspiration, of course, what I did, and I'll break it down in terms of timelines and my thought process behind things just so it can hopefully resonate with you and you can try it out for yourself. So, having said that, today I kind of want to talk about a really cute story. Actually, I want to talk about a few different things, but this one was on my mind and it made me think about when I was probably 10, 12, maybe even middle school, 13 years old. And this is when I was living with my mom. But let me back up for a second because many of you don't even know my full story. So this is an opportunity for you to get to know me, trust who I am, and just know that I'm just a regular person just like you. So I grew up in a single parent household with just my mom who worked 3 jobs at one time sometimes. And I was kind of one of those kids who was a latchkey kid who didn't really have anyone to look after her, had to figure things out for herself. And I kind of had to grow up pretty fast. And I know that many people can resonate with that feeling. I also was an only child, so I didn't really have anyone to play with. So a lot of the time spent was, time by myself. And one of the gifts that I realized that I had since I was a little girl was I felt like I had this intuitive nature about me. I didn't know it was intuition. I didn't know it was powerful. I didn't know that I had this gift until it kept happening to me. So, a lot of times we look for signs in life or synchronicities or divine timing, or we label something, right? But for me, I just always had a gut feeling. So my intuition, my gut feeling was always super strong, and it just always aligned with just a decision that I said was going to happen. And so this story that I'm going to share with you is all about a time when I was pretty young, and it was right before or around Thanksgiving. So right now we're in 2025, so you can do the math. So I remember having not a very traditional Thanksgiving, but I remember my mom having a turkey, and it was just her and I, and she had the wishbone. And the tradition of the wishbone from the turkey is if you break off the wishbone and you get the larger piece, then your wish is going to come true. So I had the intuition that I was going to get the bigger piece. So when I did it with my mom, when we broke the wishbone, I got the bigger piece. And I say this to say that in the wish that I had at the time, we were living in a house. It was I believe a 2-bedroom house. We moved around a lot, by the way. I felt like I was a gypsy growing up. We were looking at moving to a new house, and this house was a 2-story house. We were currently living in a 1-story house, and that house, the energy in that house just didn't feel right for me, and I just knew that it was a very temporary space. But the house that we had looked at was a 3-bedroom. It was much bigger. It felt like a home, and at that time in my life, it just felt like that was where we were meant to live. That was going to be our next house. That was my intuitive feeling about it. And it was my wish to move into that house, to get approved and get the owner to accept our, I guess, application. Because I believe at that time you had to fill out an application and do all these verification checks that my mom had to go through. And so my wish was that we got the house. And I kid you not, I think it was even the next day, the landlord of that property had called my mom saying that we were approved for that house. So I just remember being a little girl and already picking up on this intuitive gift that I had. And I just remember deciding that that was our house, and knowing without any evidence, without any adult knowledge of how these things really work. And I just knew that that was our house. And you could say it was the wishbone, you can say it was intuition, you can say it was me making a decision, but I just remember very vividly that had happened. So that was one example of me being a little girl, just knowing that this was going to happen. And so if you can relate with this story, I want to hear your maybe intuitive gifts and how you've tapped into that over time as a young adult or young person. And if you can relate to my story where you can look back in your life and you can recall certain instances, please leave those down in the comment or like this video and show me a little bit of love if you're resonating with this story. Now, another story that I had, well, I have so many, so let's the next one I want to talk about. Okay. So another story that I had was I was a bit older at this stage, and I was in undergraduate studies, and I didn't really have a lot of direction or clarity. I didn't really have anybody to really tell me, like, this is what you're gonna do, this is like what I think is good for you. And maybe that was a good thing because it gave me a lot of freedom and autonomy for life to unfold the way it has. And so this story was more about when I was in undergraduate school and I thought I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. I thought I wanted to host my own TV show. I thought I wanted to be this celebrity. And I always had this kind of like wish and desire. However, I didn't go that path. Even though I studied journalism, I fell into another career path, which is college counseling and advising. And having said that, that led me on a path to going to graduate school. Now, I definitely was very intimidated by that process. I definitely didn't feel like I was worthy of going to graduate school. I didn't feel like anyone in my family talked about going to graduate school, let alone college. And so it felt like I didn't belong there. And one of the things that I found really interesting was I couldn't picture myself going straight into work. I could only picture myself going into graduate school once that idea was planted in my head. Now, I didn't really know what I was doing. I really just did it very casually and kind of like, let's see what happens. And I was not attached to the outcome. However, I couldn't picture my life going any other way. Like intuitively, I knew I was going to go straight into grad school. And what had happened was I did not get accepted straight away. I was put on a wait list. But something inside me kept telling me, no, like you were meant to start graduate studies that upcoming September of 2010 when I was supposed to start. Even though I was waitlisted, even though I didn't have years of experience, even when nobody was there to help me kind of figure this whole process out, I had that feeling and that intuition that that was what I was supposed to be doing. And lo and behold, they called me saying, look, you're off the wait list. We'd like to offer you a spot. Here you go. And so that again was zero evidence in my face, but holding that faith, holding that vision, holding that certainty at that situation that it was meant for me, even when the odds all were saying completely opposite. So I know that these two stories are kind of not the same, but I just want to share with you different experiences throughout my life that have had zero evidence. Things were not looking the way I wanted it to look. I just trusted the feeling that I had inside of me. And even if I like doubted myself at that stage, I don't really remember if I doubted anything, but even if I had, it still happened. But there was just this deep inner knowing and trust in all of this that it was mine. And I just want this to be a gentle reminder for you that whatever it is that you are desiring, it is yours as well. And intuition, manifestation, I think those things can be used kind of intertwined, because intuition is just guiding us to what we want, and then it helps us make a decision about that thing that we want, and that decision will unfold in a way that we may or may not expect. So if you are expecting to go exactly a certain way, maybe it will go that way because you have decided that, or maybe it will go a different way, or possibly better than what you have expected. And many times it's happened in ways that I could not even come up with. And that's what you'll hear a lot on these channels, is just, people's success stories of manifestation. So I really hope that these two stories just kind of inspired you to, one, tap into your intuition a little bit more. If that's something that you need help with, maybe just get in touch with me. I don't offer coaching at this stage, but if this is something you have questions around, please leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if these stories are resonating with you, and if you learned anything about yourself, I'd love to hear it. And thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and wishing you lots of love. See you soon on the next video.